Welcome to another episode of Rip Off or Not. Today we are looking at the DC Comics event known as Blackest Night and the manga Saint Seiya the Hades chapter. This is a video I've wanted to do for a long time now, but was reluctant because I wanted to avoid all the Geoff Johns, Zack Snyder DCEU drama. With the live-action Lantern series coming out, as well as Saint Seiya celebrating its 40th anniversary this year with the big announcement of the long-awaited Heaven Saga, it seemed like the perfect time. Geoff Johns is my favorite DC writer. His love for the characters is obvious in his writing, and that is something that has become sorely missed at DC Comics for a few years now. But he wrote Blackest Night. I love Blackest Night. It happens to be my favorite event comic book of all time. It's fantastic. But I also love Saint Seiya and think the Hades chapter in particular is excellent, and to find similarities between these two was very exciting for me. It was fun to explore how Saint Seiya and Green Lantern compare. At the end of the day, if I can get a Green Lantern fan interested in Saint Seiya or a Saint Seiya fan interested in Green Lantern, then I will consider this video a success. For those that don't know, Saint Seiya was and still is a popular Japanese anime and manga series that premiered in 1986. It was written and illustrated by Masami Kurumada. It also goes by the name Knights of the Zodiac. The premise is that each saint or knight represents a star constellation. Since there are 88 constellations, there are 88 knights, 12 of which are the gold saints who represent the 12-month astrological constellations of the calendar. Their purpose is to protect the earth and the current reincarnation of the goddess Athena. To do so, the knights must master their cosmos, the source of their powers. They also earn special armors, which are chosen by whichever star constellation they are born under. They then battle other knights who serve other reincarnated gods. These knights come in various types such as bronze, silver, gold, and black. And in the anime, you also have the crystal and the steel knights. To find out more about Saint Seiya, check out my Saint Seiya episode of Comics and Characters 101. I'll put the link in the description. On the other hand, the Green Lantern Corps is a team of space police created by a near omnipotent species known as the Guardians of the Universe. Green Lanterns use the rings powered by energy created from willpower to enforce the laws of the universe. Willpower from throughout the universe is stored in the Great Central Power Battery. That power is then disseminated throughout the universe to each of the 7,200 Green Lanterns via their individual power battery. The power battery then powers a lantern's ring and enables them to manifest anything their creativity and willpower can imagine in the form of light constructs or power blasts. They battle evil from across the universe. Hal Jordan is the greatest Green Lantern of them all. You can find out more about him as well as the Green Lantern Corps in my Green Lantern episode of Comics and Characters 101. That link is also in the description. Other Lantern Corps exist, each with a different color. The color represents a different emotion or trait that powers them. Yellow is powered by fear, orange by greed, red by anger, pink by love, violet by compassion, and blue by hope. Together, these are called the emotional spectrum. Then the ultimate powers are either when all the lights combine to become the white light of life, or when there is a total absence of light in which it creates the Black Death. To be crystal clear, I am not trying to say Green Lantern is a ripoff of Saint Seiya. Green Lantern is decades older. In fact, it is possible that Saint Seiya was even influenced at one point by Green Lantern. After all, Saint Seiya has a dying gold knight giving Kido the baby Athena, which starts the entire Battle of the Gods, and Green Lantern was given his ring by a dying alien Green Lantern looking for a replacement. Of course, that could all just be a coincidence. But I do see striking similarities between Geoff Johns' Green Lantern run, particularly his Green Lantern event Blackest Night, and the Saint Seiya chapter known as Hades. But Blackest Night came out over a decade after Hades chapter. Geoff Johns' Green Lantern run and Masami Kurumada's Saint Seiya series are both massive pieces of work. Geoff Johns wrote Green Lantern for nearly 10 years from 2004 to 2013, with his run totaling around 3,376 pages. The Blackest Night graphic novel is 344 pages alone, but the omnibus with all the tie-ins is a massive 1,664 pages. Masami Kurumada's Saint Seiya run totaled 28 volumes with around 5,392 pages total, and the Hades chapter made up 1,688 of those pages. Basically, Blackest Night and Hades chapter are both about the dead returning to take over the world. Dead heroes from the past return to torment or battle the heroes who were once their friends. Starting with the first major arc of both series, the Green Lantern series saw the Green Lanterns fight the newly established Yellow Lantern Corps led by the evil Sinestro in the arc called the Sinestro Corps War. Meanwhile, Saint Seiya had the Bronze Knights fight a civil war with the misled forces of the Gold Knights who were fighting under the command of the evil Pope in the saga called Sanctuary. Both instances, the story felt like the major saga that the entirety of the series was building up to, but both arcs ended up being preludes to an even bigger and grander saga. Yellow and gold might seem like a weak comparison now, but it keeps going from there and the similarities keep stacking up. After battling the Yellow Lanterns, the Green Lantern series had a few mini arcs to introduce the other colored Lantern Corps as it built its way up to the War of Light and then the major arc known as Blackest Night. In Saint Seiya, besides fighting the Gold Knights, they also fought the Black Knights, the Silver Knights. We were then introduced to even more warriors when the Bronze Knights fought Poseidon and his knights known as Mariners. But these all led into the grand saga known as the Hades chapter, where the Bronze Knights fought against the undead warriors known as Spectres. Let's start with the main characters. Before Geoff Johns came along, everyone was fighting about who should be the one and only Green Lantern. But Johns took a different approach and made the main 4 choices essentially a team of 4. Hal Jordan, Guy Gardner, John Stewart, and Kyle Rayner. They would later be called the 4 Corpsmen. Saint Seiya, on the other hand, was originally created as a team of 4. Pegasus Seiya, Cygnus Hyoga, Dragon Shiryu, and Andromeda Shun. They are known as the Bronze Knights. Now, Hal Jordan Green Lantern, he's been around since 1959, but when Geoff Johns started writing the character, he developed the definitive version of Hal that we know today. One that is an arrogant maverick, has a problem with authority, jumps in first, thinks and asks questions later, doesn't know when to quit, and has the highest willpower in the universe. In Saint Seiya, Pegasus Seiya has all those same character traits. Then there's John Stewart and Dragon Shiryu. Both are closest to the main character in strength and relationship. Both are the most serious on the team and are sticklers for rules. Both doubt themselves and continually try to prove themselves worthy of their power. For Stewart, it's because his failure to prevent the destruction of the planet Xanshi. For Shiryu, he's always wanting to get his master's approval, and then gets even worse when he loses his eyesight. Next is Guy Gardner and Cygnus Hyoga. Both can be very cocky. Both think himself more skilled than the main character. Gardner thinks he is far better than Hal, and Hyoga believes he is the only Bronze Knight capable of defeating Phoenix Ikki. Both are loyal to the team, maybe even to a fault, and both have unresolved parental issues. For Gardner, he has issues with his alcoholic father, and for Cygnus Hyoga, his mother died at an early age, causing him trauma. And finally, Kyle Rayner and Andromeda Shun. Neither are warriors regularly like the other members of the team. Both are the least sure of themselves and second-guess everything they do and their place on the team. Both are more in touch with their sensitive sides. Rayner is an artist and Shun is more effeminate. Both look up to the others. Kyle specifically looks up to Hal, while Shun looks up to his brother with reverence. Both have a hidden power that makes him actually more powerful than the rest of the team. And at one point, they are both possessed by the ultimate evil in the universe. Kyle is possessed by Parallax, while Shun is possessed by Hades. In Green Lantern during Blackest Night, well-known villain Sinestro reluctantly joins the Green Lanterns to help them win the War of Light and to prevent the prophesied Blackest Night. Sinestro is a villain turned hero, temporarily of course. In his past, he was once a Green Lantern himself and was considered the greatest of them all until he went evil and Hal was forced to take him down and take the title. Due to his great ability as a Lantern, he is the first to become a White Lantern. In Saint Seiya, you have Phoenix Ikki, who in the very first arc was the villain who nearly killed the Bronze Knights. When he overcomes the abuse and brainwashing that made him evil, he begins to help the Bronze Knights. He never officially joins them as a team member, but he chooses to help them from the shadows, mostly to keep an eye on his little brother, Shun. Like Sinestro, he is a villain turned hero. He is easily the most powerful Bronze Knight, but he is a loner. It comes down to him and Seiya fighting the forces of Hades during the final battle in Hades chapter. Now, as you can see, the 4 Corpsmen dynamic is very similar to the dynamic of the 4 Bronze Knights, and to top it off, they both add in the very powerful 5th villain turned good guy or anti-hero. The villains. In Green Lantern, Nekron is the ruler of the dead. He wants his army of the dead to consume the universe, enabling him to reign over all. But in Saint Seiya, Hades is also a ruler of the dead. He is the god of the underworld. Both control the dead and send an army of the undead to Earth to conquer it. Both send undead people back to Earth who have passed away, but who already have an emotional connection with the heroes so that they might hesitate in the fight, basically to manipulate them. And both want to fulfill the prophecy. The Prophecy. In Green Lantern, there's a prophecy in the Book of Oa kept by the Guardians of the Universe. A prophecy they were worried about enough to mention in the Green Lantern Oath itself, but over the millennia, it was still forgotten, even by the Guardians themselves. It says that other lanterns of other colors besides green will start to emerge and a war of light will follow. That war of light will eventually lead to the Blackest Night where the dead will consume the universe. In Saint Seiya, the prophecy says the gods of legend will emerge and a battle of the gods will take place. If Hades, the god of the underworld, can defeat the other gods and win the battle of the gods, it will lead to the greatest eclipse, a plan that will submerge Earth into eternal darkness, causing all life to wither and die and become his subjects for eternity. So both stories have prophecies about eternal darkness and death. Story elements. The Cemetery. In Blackest Night, it begins with Hal Jordan, Green Lantern, and Barry Allen, the Flash, in a cemetery discussing all the superheroes who have died over the years, including themselves. Hal Jordan and Barry Allen both died in the past, but somehow returned before Blackest Night. The story progresses, and eventually, in the Justice League Watchtower, we see a mausoleum with the names on the coffins of many of the superheroes who have died. With them collected in one place, it shows the audience who all has died in the DC universe. In Saint Seiya, it starts off with Shina and a couple soldiers walking through a cemetery in Sanctuary. During their night runs, they see the cemetery has been desecrated, but Shina notices that they weren't destroyed from the outside. The bodies were not dug up. They look as if they broke out of the ground. The headstones give the audience a glimpse of all the knights who have died. The 12 Warriors. In Blackest Night, Hal Jordan seeks out the leader of each of the 6 colors of the emotional spectrum. He gathers Atrocitus, Larfleeze, Indigo One, Sinestro, Carol Ferris, and St. Walker. Later on, 6 more experienced heroes and villains are deputized: Mara, Lex Luthor, The Flash, The Atom, Wonder Woman, and Scarecrow. Essentially, Hal gathers 12 experienced warriors to help stop Nekron and prevent the Blackest Night. In Saint Seiya, right before the Hades chapter, there's a Civil War chapter called The Battle for Sanctuary. Seiya and the Bronze Knights battle the Gold Knights in the 12 temples. These Gold Knights are experienced heroes but fight against the Bronze Knights due to a manipulative lie. As Seiya and the others battle, they earn the trust and respect of the Gold Knights. These 12 Gold Knights then help Seiya and the 3 other Bronze Knights during the rest of the Hades chapter. So in both stories, the main 4 gathered 12 experienced warriors to help win the prophesied war against darkness. Just looking at St. Walker and compare him to the Gold Knight Virgo Shaka, you can clearly see a similarity. Not to mention the fact that St. Walker is named Saint Walker. There is even one frame where St. Walker calls all of the warriors in the blue and green corps the Saints of the Universe. In Saint Seiya, all the knights from bronze to gold are called saints. The Old Wise One turned warrior. In Blackest Night, Ganthet is a wise old guardian of the universe who has always tried to help the Earth Lanterns. He has guided them to the best of his ability over the years, even when it meant challenging the other guardians of the universe. After the War of Light begins, he knows the Blackest Night is coming and steps up to enlist himself as a new member of the Green Lantern Corps. In Saint Seiya, you have the old wise man Master Doko. He was once a Gold Knight himself over 240 years ago. He has been a guide to the Knights ever since the last Battle of the Gods. He even trained Dragon Shiryu and has guided the Bronze Knights and some of the Gold Knights such as Ares Mu. He was secretly stationed in the mountains of Goroho for the last 240 years by Athena herself. In the Hades chapter, the new Battle of the Gods finally begins when Athena's seal breaks and Hades escapes. Specters begin appearing, indicating the dead are rising, and Doko initiates the second part of the plan. He transforms his old body into a younger version of himself. Doko is once again in his prime and becomes the Gold Knight Libra. Combined power. In Blackest Night, after they discover that the light of the Blue Lanterns boosts the power of the Green Lanterns, they learn it is all an emotional spectrum and that all lantern lights combined would create the most powerful energy in the universe, the white light of life. They combine their light to create the white light in an attempt to destroy the black central power battery and sever its power from all the Black Lanterns. They fail, but then attempt to do the same thing against Nekron, the Master of the Dead himself. In Saint Seiya, the Bronze Knights and the 12 Gold Knights are in the underworld and need to get to Elysium, but it is protected by an impenetrable wall known as the Wailing Wall. The Gold Knights combine their power and sacrifice their lives to create a light as powerful as the sun itself and the only thing capable of penetrating the wall. Once the wall is destroyed, the Bronze Knights enter Elysium for the final battle. Level up in power. In Blackest Night, members of the Justice League temporarily become White Lanterns, the most powerful of all lanterns, and attack Nekron in the final battle. In the Hades chapter of Saint Seiya, the Bronze Knights temporarily gain their God Cloths, the most powerful armor there is, and attack Hades in their final battle. A great power imprisoned. In Blackest Night, after the White Entity releases the White Rings, one ring makes it into the Black Central Power Battery and releases the Anti-Monitor, who had been imprisoned in the Massive Lantern. Once free, the Anti-Monitor helps to kill Nekron, the ruler of the dead. In Saint Seiya, throughout most of the Hades chapter, Athena is imprisoned in a vase that's slowly draining her life. But in the end, she breaks out of the vase prison, dons her God Cloth, and defeats Hades. Visuals and layouts. When Parallax Kyle Rayner kills Green Lantern Chance during the Sinestro Corps War, it looks very similar to the lightning plasma attack by the Gold Knight Leo Iolia in Saint Seiya. In Blackest Night, when the White Rings are released, they tear through Nekron, defeating him. While in Saint Seiya, when Athena finally confronts Hades, she defeats him with her staff. As you can see, these two layouts are very similar. During Geoff Johns' run of Green Lantern, it is established that each Color Lantern Corps has a cosmic entity tied to it. For green, it is the cosmic entity known as Ion. For yellow, it is the cosmic entity Parallax, etc., etc. In Saint Seiya, all the knights are connected to their own star constellation, which is usually some sort of animal. This fact in both actually causes very similar visuals. You have the knight or lantern doing an attack or pose in front of the entity or constellation, especially when you look at the images of Sinestro with the yellow entity Parallax or the white entity. It looks very similar to the knights in front of their constellations, particularly images of Phoenix Ikki standing in front of the Phoenix Bird as he does during his Ascending Phoenix attack. Quick side note, even though the Knights of the Zodiac live-action film came out much later than Blackest Night or Hades chapter, it's interesting to see that the fight between Pegasus Seiya and Phoenix Ikki looks very similar to the layouts of Hal Jordan and Sinestro fighting one another with their powers bursting around them. And it's cool to imagine what could have been in a live-action Green Lantern film. In Blackest Night, after Nekron is defeated, the White Lantern resurrects some of the many DC characters that have died over the years. In Saint Seiya, the dead Gold Knights are resurrected in the underworld just in time to help the Bronze Knights reach Elysium. The scenes take place at slightly different points in their respective narratives, but you can definitely see the visuals are similar. Are there signs of Saint Seiya's influence in any of Geoff Johns' other work? Maybe. John's next book was Aquaman after he revived the character in Blackest Night. His run was probably the best Aquaman ever had. Johns made the character cool even before Jason Momoa, Zack Snyder, or James Wan came along. But I also see the Saint Seiya influence there as well. In John's Aquaman, his trident is more significant than it had been in past runs, as you may have seen in the Wan film. But in Saint Seiya, before the Hades chapter, there was a Poseidon chapter. Julian Solo was drawn to the trident of Poseidon because he was the reincarnation of Poseidon. And even though Geoff Johns never got to it because he left the book early, he set up an arc called The Rise of the Seven Seas. We aren't too sure of what it was meant to be, but Saint Seiya's Poseidon chapter had the 4 Bronze Knights go down to Poseidon's kingdom deep under the ocean to take on the god in order to rescue Athena. But before they could, they had to topple the 7 pillars that held up the 7 seas, which of course were guarded by the 7 generals of Poseidon. We may never know what Johns was actually going to do with this arc, and it might have been completely different, but it is interesting to think that it might have been similar to the Poseidon chapter of Saint Seiya. Now, in his new image imprint Ghost Machine, he has a series called Rook Exodus. The characters are people called Wardens who possess helmets that control various animal species. Now, even though it's just their helmets and not full-on armors, it may have been influenced by Saint Seiya's armors, which are totems to their star constellation animals. And maybe it's all just a coincidence, who knows? Conclusion. Is Blackest Night a ripoff of Saint Seiya's Hades chapter? As always, it's up to you to decide. But personally, I don't think it is. Blackest Night delves greatly into DC Comics history and is a much larger scale than Hades chapter. However, it seems clear that the Blackest Night was influenced or inspired by Saint Seiya's Hades chapter, at least on some level, to both Geoff Johns and artist Ivan Reis. And remember, comics have always borrowed ideas from other comics, movies, television, etc. Creators kind of need to do that in order to keep, the ongoing serial storytelling format going. Either way, both of these comic sagas are a great read, and I hope that if you are a fan of one, you will go check out the other. You can watch the Saint Seiya anime on Crunchyroll, but there are a lot of filler episodes that might bore some viewers, especially since it came out in the 80s. I suggest the manga. It's much better and truer to Kurumada's vision. That said, is available on Comixology. As is Geoff Johns' entire Green Lantern and Blackest Night runs. Tell us your thoughts in the comments below. Till next time. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe for future content.